Mr. Chairman, at this time, I'll bring forward Wanda Paul and Chief Frank Kinsler to talk about FSSAT findings presentation.
Can they start?
Ms. Paul, Chief Kinsler, whenever you're ready.
Is presentation up? I can't tell if it's up or not. It is. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Superintendent Fenoy. Thank you for the opportunity to come talk to you about the Florida Safe Schools assessment tool, more commonly known as FSSAT's. Finding and summary is part of my job as the school safety specialist. I'm required annually to update you on that, and that's what we're going to do tonight. Let's see what slide we're on here. There we go. So as part of the legal requirements as a safety school specialist, I have to conduct the school safety security risk assessment at each public school using the Florida Safe Schools or FSSAT instrument. That occurred during May and June of 2020. I have to share the FSSAT findings and recommendations for improvement at a publicly noticed school board meeting to provide the public an opportunity to hear the school board members discuss and take action on the findings and recommendations. That is today's meeting. And each school safety specialist shall report such findings and school board action to the Office of Safe Schools within 30 days after the district school board meeting, which would be by October 28th of this year, which will readily meet that deadline. So the Florida Safe, the FSSATs, if you recall, one FSSAT must be completed per school campus. So each FSSAT is over 130 pages long and contains 3 parts. The first is the school profile, which is 79 pages. The second is a campus tour, which is another 41 pages. And the last is the strategic security plan, which is another 20 or 21 pages. So in this particular case this year, we conducted 222 FSSATs. That's at 172 district-operated schools. And as the school safety specialist, I'm also required to ensure that the charter schools are compliant with completing the FSSAT process. So 45-page district summary report is also required, which will be shared with you during a closed session on October 21st. Due to the sensitive security information that is contained. As a follow-up, each campus tour takes approximately 1.5 to 2 hours as the officers walk the campus, document areas as needed, and enter the preliminary information into the Department of Education FSSAT site. Every FSSAT was reviewed by the lead officer assigned to the school before being approved for submission to the school principal. The time investment this year was easily over 500 hours to complete this process. And before I move on to the next slide, I want to give a big thank you. I know she's retired, but Barbara Terembus was just remarkable in this. Lynn Powell, who's here, our school principals and staff, our police officers, local partners, and our charter school principals. Really quite a heavy lift to get all this accomplished. Go ahead. So due to the COVID-19, many of last year's recommendations have been impacted. For example, virtual training. We developed a very robust virtual training environment, and but several areas still need in-person contact, and we'll get to that as we're able to navigate through the challenges of COVID-19. The availability of safety and security products has been affected by the pandemic. I think Mr. Burke will tell you that as we try to get vendors and they're struggling to get through their own challenges, and also most of the school systems are ordering the same things And so that creates quite a challenge. But I'm here to tell you that despite the COVID-19 challenges, the school police department has been successful in coordinating with district and school-based staff to ensure compliance with all the FSAT process. So as I did last year, I'm going to give you some information and recommendations based on 5 areas: safety and security, perimeter security, technology enhancements, training and procedure enhancements, and community collaboration. So we should be able to move through these very quickly. Safety and security, personnel enhancements. The findings here on this category is all district-operated and charter schools have at least one school safety officer on campus every day school is in session from bell to bell. Some of you may know that this is the first time in our history that the school safety officer on every campus is a Palm Beach County School District police officer. And so that really provides us with great opportunities to take our safety and security levels, safety and security initiatives to a whole new level. A recommendation here is that the district-operated schools continue to provide at least one officer at every campus, and we're required to do that by law. And then for the charters, again, because I'm also responsible for the charters, the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office should continue to provide the Guardian Program and annual recertification training for security guards and guardians, and continue to monitor charters for compliance with having a qualified school safety officer on every campus. Go ahead. On area number 2 for perimeter security, the findings here are that district-operated schools continue to receive enhanced perimeter security, which is being addressed and prioritized according to the highest need. One area of concern is lighting in and outside of the school buildings. We did our assessment this year in the afternoon and evenings, which revealed some different findings this year. So, and in terms of the charters, many schools are located in facilities where enhancing perimeter security could prove challenging. Those schools located in strip malls or anything other than a standalone building present significant challenges in and of themselves. Currently, the district does not have any authority to govern the location of a charter school. Therefore, local jurisdictions also have limited control over charter schools as it relates to zoning requirements as well.
Chief, I'd like to ask a question on that.
Yes.
Don't you, as the specialist or whatever that title is in the state statute, require you to determine that those children in the charter schools are secure in the building that they're in? So how does that weigh in with what you just said, that, you know, we don't have authority to look at their location, but we do have the obligation to ensure that they are securing those students, correct?
Correct. That is correct, Mr. Barbieri. We have to ensure that they're in compliance with Senate Bill 7026 and Senate Bill 7030 and all of the FSAT requirements. In this notice to you, as I talk about lighting conditions and those types of things, you know, these charter schools meet the compliance, meet those standards. However, these are recommended additional security enhancements.
Okay, so for example, in our schools, we have a single point of entry, we have locked doors, we have limited access to the students. I mean, are we sure that those charter schools don't they have an obligation to do this? Maybe not the single point of entry, but don't they have the obligation to do a lot of those same things? And wouldn't it be your responsibility to document whether or not they were not providing those kind of security protocols that we have in our schools?
So an answer to that would be yes, in terms of the single points of entry and those things that they are doing. And we can say with certainty that they are doing those things based on the results of the FSATs. And yes, it is my responsibility as a school safety specialist to point out any deficiencies and to do what I can to ensure that they bring those in line with the recommended 7026 and 7030 in Stoneman Douglas guidelines.
Okay, so how's the board protected if you find a deficiency and they don't want to correct it? Do you have any authority? Do you report that to the state? Do you report it to the board reports it to the state? How does that work?
What would happen if I found a deficiency in relation to any of our charter schools? I would immediately bring it to the board's attention, and then the board could advise us on what actions we would like to take.
Okay, thank you.
To date, I have not had to do that.
Thank you. But continue.
Okay, thank you. So on number 3, on the technology enhancements, district-operated schools. We've identified schools where lighting needs to be enhanced and continue the district-wide initiative to provide schools with enhanced security features like cameras, access controls, and communications infrastructure, repair fencing and gates as needed. So again, as we mentioned a little bit ago, Mr. Barbieri, while we have the authority to require charter schools to do certain things, we do not have the authority to govern the location of a charter school, so currently that can cause some complications. There is no way for the district to enforce compliance with the best practices unless, of course, they're related to requirements of 7026 and 7030. Okay, and so some of the best practices hardening put forth by the Florida Department of Education and the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Commission. So we would, again, this year, as we did last year, request guidance from the legislature on school hardening requirements along with adequate funding to implement them at all schools. So there's a difference, Mr. Barbieri, to answer to your question of what's required by state statute and then what are established as best practices by the Stoneman Douglas Commission.
All right, so since we're getting our legislative priority list together, shouldn't some of this be on that list? We didn't discuss that earlier. For example, legislature requiring, school hardening requirements on the charter schools so that we don't face a situation where one of the children there is put in a dangerous situation. Shouldn't we put that on our priority list?
That would certainly be something that I would recommend that be added. I will tell you that we work very closely with our charter school department and our charter school principals to ensure that the children are safe. These are the other recommended enhancements made by the Stoneman Douglas Commission that we're speaking about.
All right, so if you see some things that you think should be on the priority list, would you make sure that the administration, the rest of the administration gets that? So when they bring the list back to us, we can see the things that you would like added on, with the board that can then decide how we want to prioritize those?
I certainly will.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So Area 3, technology enhancements. We continue to enhance the Wi-Fi, cameras, and video systems. And this is important. Currently, all high school and middle schools and 20% of our elementary schools have had their Wi-Fi enhanced. The remaining 80% of the elementary schools will be done by this time next year. What's really important about the Wi-Fi perspective here is that it really allows us, from a safety perspective, to use that Wi-Fi to enhance communication, introduce software so that our officers can participate in roll call every day, share timely information. That also allows us to provide greater levels of safety and security. Our recommendation here is that we continue the Wi-Fi camera and video enhancements throughout the schools and continue on with the plan to have the remaining 80% of elementary schools done by this time next year. Again, with the charters, I'll just reiterate to what we just talked about just a little bit ago about enforcing compliance in this area, and certainly if there's any deficiencies or any challenges, I'll bring them to the board immediately and make you aware of them. I have not had any to date. All right, Area 4, training and procedure enhancements. There have been many new training and procedure mandates approved by the legislature over the past several years. Given employee attrition, training is an ongoing endeavor. As I said initially, we really developed a very robust virtual training environment that is really allowing us to keep up to date and provide the most essential training to our employees in a quick and a timely manner. The district continues to put accountability measures in place to ensure full compliance for both district-operated and charter schools. So on the recommendation piece for this, district-operated schools, again, funding may be needed to provide training outside of regular duty days. The district should also continue to evaluate existing school safety and security-related policies to ensure full compliance in light of the numerous legislative changes from year to year. So, as we know, this past year there weren't any significant changes as compared to 70-30 and 70-26 the year before. So that has given us an opportunity to really get ahead of the curve on our training as well. So, So I put that in there in the event of not knowing what the next legislative session will bring in terms of those training requirements. Again, same condition for the charter schools, and we will formally document all instances of noncompliance, notify FDLE, and notify the board immediately. Area 5 is community collaboration. The district has strong relationships in the community, including those first responders, business partners, government agencies, and nonprofits. One of the things I'm particularly excited about is about a year ago we put a working committee together that brought together all law enforcement agencies and all fire agencies here in Palm Beach County, and we've agreed to a model policy that the fire chiefs are in the process of signing off on. The police chiefs and the sheriff, I believe, have signed off already. And that what that does is puts us on the same page in terms of an emergency response, and so that we're all working efficiently and effectively together. It also includes training, enhanced training for our staff, and the more that law enforcement and fire services work together, the greater the opportunity we have to provide safety for our students. Our recommendation on that is to continue to leverage the relationships in service of the safety and security of all schools. So in summary, you'll see the 5 general areas here. This is just an overview and highlight of what I've spoken about under safety and security, continuing to provide at least one officer in every campus. The PBSO should continue with providing guardian and security guard training, continue to monitor charters for compliance, and having a qualified school safety officer on every campus. Area 2 on the perimeter security, continue district-wide initiatives to provide schools with enhanced perimeters, request guidance from the legislature on requirements to enforce compliance for charters. Area 3 on the technology areas enhancements, continue with that Wi-Fi program. It's really critical, and request guidance again from the legislature. Area 4 is training and procedures enhancement, continued training and review of existing district policies to ensure compliance, and putting us ahead of the curve on training in the event that we have a catastrophic emergency. And then Area 5 is community collaboration. Again, we have strong working relationships with our law enforcement agency, our community partners. I can't say enough about internally the cooperation we have with ESE and Safe Schools, and it's just remarkable to watch this whole thing, as it moves ahead. So this is what I'm actually requesting from the board tonight, that you, if you're so inclined, Mr. Chairman, to acknowledge and accept the FSSAT findings summary that I've reviewed tonight. The recommendation should reflect the strategies and activities the district should implement in order to address the FSSAT findings. And then this is just a reminder, we have a closed session to discuss sensitive safety and security efforts scheduled for October 21st of this year. And at that time, the board will also vote to approve the 45-page district summary report prior to our submission to the Florida Department of Education. I know I put a lot in front of you this evening pretty quickly, but my purpose was to just give you a general overview of where we are.
Great, thank you, Chief. Board questions, Mrs. Andrews?
Thank you, Chief. And I want to tell you, right before COVID, I was out in the community with your offices, and they're awesome. That FSSAT is a big document, and as you walk through the schools and talk with them about what's needed, they truly did a great job. So we started that. And just a few days ago, I was over at Glade Central. And so Area 2, perimeter security. Those gates are there. That was a big deal. I was so excited. We've been waiting on those gates a long time. So now the single point of entry is there. And a couple things I want to say as I look through this, I really do know that you all do a great job because I've followed this. The community piece, thank you for going to Wellington every year. You and Ms. Paul and your team, you're out there working with the community on the annual meetings as it relates to safety. And also your offices are out there working in partnership in the Tri-Cities Glades area once a month as we talk about issues for safety within the community and within the schools. So this whole piece is a big piece, and that document is awesome, and you're working it, so thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Andrews. I appreciate that, and I'll be sure to pass your compliments on to the officers. I'm so proud of them, and, you know, and the other piece too, and I know Ms. Paul sits here as I give this report, but she's the one that puts up those fences and those single points of entry and all those other things. So, you know, I can't thank her enough for all that she does.
Any other board comments? So Chief, you asked us to approve that, but we can't do that at a workshop. I guess it's going to be on our agenda,
Correct.
October 7th?
Yes.
Okay. All right, any other questions for the chief? Thanks, Chief. You know how I feel about the police department, so I don't need to say anything else.
Thank you, Mr. Barbieri.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, if I'm so inclined, I'll just have Ms. Paul and Chief Kitzrow stay in place and go over policy 2.065.
Are you doing that or am I doing that? I guess we.